Good morning, everybody. This is Danny from Deep South Homestead. We are here on Porch Time today. Guys, I'm actually shooting Porch Time in the middle of Cristobal because this is usually a time frame when I shoot Porch Time. And I can't be at the cabin, I can't be in the fields, I can't be anywhere, so I'm having to be in the studio room here to shoot the video today. It's pouring down raining outside. You probably can hear it on the metal roof over the studio room here a little bit. I'm able to watch the trees and stuff as the wind is blowing. Some of the corn has blown down. I can see that from here. There's nothing I can really do about it. I mean, it is what it is. We're just praying that as this thing progresses, that it doesn't do any more damage than what it's already doing. As the ground gets wet and the wind comes in, the plants will have a tendency to blow over. We went out this morning in the rain and picked all the squash and what tomatoes we could that were close to being ready, just to take some of the weight off of some of the plants, so maybe it'll all fare pretty well. So just keep us in your prayers as this goes on. But now, today is Tuesday, this is done past, so I'm praying that by the time this comes up we have fared well. I'm just shooting it during the middle of Cristobal because this is a time I don't have anything else to do but sit in the house and do a few things, you know. I figure I'd shoot some videos. Today I want to talk about, we get more, I get so many comments about, Danny, how do you and Wanda accomplish all you accomplish? Does somebody help y'all? How is it possible that someone that's 60 years old can accomplish all you guys accomplish? Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what does it take to be successful at large gardening, creating your own food supply. Because Wanda and I, as we've already told y'all many times in many videos, we do not buy much from the grocery store. Now we may get some things that we just can't produce, like salt or baking powder, or maybe Wanda might use a little flour for something for her, maybe some rice flour for me, or some almond flour or something to that nature, but stuff that we just can't produce. And then we don't even really go to the store, we just order it online and have it brought to the house. I technically have not been in a grocery store now in almost 3 months. You know, since COVID-19 started, I hadn't even been in a grocery store. And Wanda's only been in, I think, maybe twice. Just ran into a Piggly Wiggly here and just purchased and one of them was we had to get little baggies to send off our seeds that we sell on Etsy. And that was one of her reasons for going in. So, and we ran out and we had lots of Etsy orders, so we had to. There's lessons from the past that can be learned about being sustainable on a farm and raising your own food. Now, I'm not talking about just a few raised beds. I'm not talking about a little 60 by 80 garden or something like that. A 60 by 80 garden, that's about an hour, hour and a half's work, and you can take care of it. You know what I mean? If you do it right, you do it less time than that. I'm talking about Wanda and I actively have 7 gardens, plus 1 greenhouse, plus another greenhouse we're getting ready to put up. And we manage all of it, plus cattle. We have fencing we do, we have fruit orchards, we were building a cabin, you know, we have chickens, we have, you know, fruit trees, we all the time canning, we do all this stuff. And people ask us constantly, how is it that you people accomplish so much at your age? Well, like I said, some things we need to learn from the past. My dad raised me, as many of y'all have heard me say, he had a saying, we get up and go to work when it's daylight enough to see how. Now get what I'm saying, when it's daylight enough to see how. Here where we live at right now, that's about 5:45 in the morning. At 5:45 it's daylight, enough to see how to work. We eat when we get hungry. In other words, there's not really a particular time schedule. Wanda and I try to stay on a schedule. We try to eat a snack around, we eat breakfast at like between 5 and 5:30 in the morning, and then we usually eat a snack around 9 o'clock, just a little booster to keep us rolling. We have lunch at 12, between 11 and 12 o'clock during the day, and then we eat supper late at night, later at night, right at dark. And we eat when we get hungry, my dad would always say, and any fool can tell when dark comes. In other words, my dad's rule was, at our house, you got up at 4 something in the morning, Mom had breakfast ready by 5, and we usually ate breakfast and was out the door by 5:30, 5:45, and we ate when we got hungry, and when we worked until dark. Now, the only implications I've made in the things that the way I was raised from my father is after talking to several gentlemen that was in their 90s, I asked them, I said, how is it that you men were able to do as much as you could, you know, throughout the history of your life and still have such vibrant health at 90 years old? And most of them are, well, son, there's a couple of secrets to life. And they told me the exact same thing my daddy said, except the one thing that they mentioned was in the summertime, in the heat of the day, we went in and we laid down and we took a nap. And then when it cooled off in the evening, we went back to work. Don't ever overheat yourself. All the old men told me this. Don't ever overheat yourself, because if you ever have heat exhaustion, you're really no good from that point forward. And my problem is I had heat exhaustion in my 30s. And from that point forward, I can feel it happening to me. And I'm pretty conscious of it. If I start getting a little too hot, I immediately deal with it right at that moment, rather than letting myself suffer from heat exhaustion, because heat exhaustion can keep you down for days. The secret to Wanda and I is we get up in the morning. A lot of people say, well, we get out in the garden about 9 o'clock, you know, to get going. 9 o'clock, Wanda and I have usually done wound down most of our gardening stuff. I mean, we feed, as soon as we go out the door after eating breakfast, we feed our animals, which doesn't take us but about 15 minutes to do that, because we have a schedule and a routine and it works perfect. We feed our animals, and then from that point forward, I load all the buckets up in the bucket of my tractor, and we head out to our gardens with the tractor. And as we pick, we put stuff in buckets. We don't come back to the house. We stay in the gardens, and we go from one thing to the next until we have everything picked, unless we're picking something like English peas or sweet corn. Now, if we're picking English peas, we schedule the day when we're going to pick English peas from the days we don't pick anything else, because English peas and sweet corn are two crops that from the time you pick them, you've got about an hour or around an hour to an hour and 15 minutes to either have them frozen or in a freezer, or have them going into a canner, because they're so loaded with sugar that if you don't, the sugars in them will actually turn to starch and they'll take on a starchy taste. And the problem today is with most people go, oh, I don't like green bean or English peas or sweet peas or whatever you call it. Some people call it, they go by a lot of different names. And it's only because they've never ate a real fresh one that's been prepared properly. Most of them are real starchy because they have not been cared for properly. Same thing with sweet corn. I go to lots of, used to, I don't anymore, used to go to lots of people's houses for reunions or for family get-togethers, all these kinds of things, and or just visiting with someone, and they would serve sweet corn, and I could tell instantly. I was like, wow, this corn was not processed properly, you know, because it had that starchy taste to it. Most people, if you don't know, you don't know the difference. You think that that's just the way sweet corn is supposed to taste. Well, the truth is, sweet corn is processed right. Now, Wanda and I will pull 50 ears at a time, bring them to the house. We will process them, get them in the freezer, go back, get 50 more, bring them back, process them, put them in the freezer. That's the way we work. Now, there has been times, if we're doing it fast enough, and we can get it under air conditioning quick enough, we will do 100 ears. Depends on the speed that we're at that day. We never pull sweet corn and just leave it in the refrigerator. We never go to the store and buy sweet corn on a shuck. In other words, if someone come here and wanted to buy sweet corn from me, personally, when I had plenty to sell, I would wait till they got here and I would ask them, how many ears do you want? And we would go out at the garden whenever they got ready to leave, and I would pull them right quick, put them in a bag for them, tell them, I go home, process this quick. Because that's the way it's supposed to be done. Now, the days that we didn't schedule things like peas or sweet corn, or when their peas or sweet corn are over. Now, they're over for us here in the South. They've been over now for almost a month now. We hadn't had any sweet corn or any English peas, or just green peas, whatever y'all want to call them, because it's done got too hot. Now we don't technically have to worry about a lot of that stuff. Now when we pick, see, I used to pick commercially and sell commercially to farmers markets and to factories mainly. I had contracts with them where I raised lots of vegetables, and there's some rules that go along with things like that. You don't ever let the sun, you don't ever pick a vegetable after the sun has done hit it, because it won't hold up. A lot of people go, well, I pick my peas in the evening, or I pick my crops in the evening after I get off from work. Well, you can do that, but you lose a lot of quality of your food. People who pick for farmers markets, lots of them have coolers, and they will pick late in the afternoon, put it in a cooler, and then take off to a farmer's market the next morning, which you don't really get a good product that way. The only way you get a real good product is to get up that morning at daylight or before daylight and get out there in that field and you get that stuff picked, and you get on the road and get to that farmer's market that morning while the dew is still on it. Now, you get a good product when you do it that way. Same way when you're raising gardens or crops. One thing I've learned over the years, we get up, like I told you, we take that bucket and the tractor and we head out there and we pick all of our fields before the sun actually ever hits those fields. We know where the sun's going to hit our property at when we go to those places first, and we start wherever the sun's going to hit at first, and we pick, and we try to stay ahead of the sun, because there's trees and shades and stuff like that. We work based off of shades on our property and what's in the shade, what's not in the shade. That's how we work, because from the time it gets daylight enough to see something to the time the sun actually breaks the sky is usually about an hour, hour and a half. And Wanda and I have land across the road from us that has lots of timber on it that even prevents the sun on some of our gardens from actually hitting our gardens until like 7 o'clock in the morning. Usually by 9 o'clock, Wanda and I have picked our whole farm, and we're back at the house, and we're already processing most of our food by 9 o'clock. Now, from that point forward is when we begin to go out and do other things. Now, in the wintertime, we can work all day on gardening because it's not hot, usually, unless we have an Indian summer or something. And then if we do, we follow the same rules we follow in the summer months. But in the wintertime, if the temperature during the middle of the day doesn't get over, say, 65 degrees or 70, Wanda and I will stay outside all day working. We don't even come out of the garden. We're working the soil, we're tilling the soil, we're amending the soils, we're working with our plants, we're harvesting, we're doing whatever we need to do, planting fruit trees, trimming trees. You know, we're doing everything we need to be able to do during the cooler part of the day during the winter months. Now that we have the greenhouses, the good thing about the greenhouses is the greenhouses are climate controlled, most of them. When we come into our greenhouse now, at daylight, first thing we do is we open the doors up on the greenhouse at daylight. We go ahead, our fans are programmed based on the heat of the attic of the greenhouse, and then we have regular fans that we just turn on because if there's any humidity, which is usually early in the morning, is trapped in the upper part of the greenhouse, it's usually humid. We have fans that we just manually turn on to get that air circulating in there to keep down any kind of molds or funguses or anything like that. It helps to prevent a lot of that. But with the greenhouse, it has a shade cloth on top of it, and we can actively work in the greenhouse even if the sun is up. The sun never, this is the beauty of the greenhouses, is once you put that shade cover on there in the summertime, the sun never actually hits the fruits or the plants. It's filtered sun, and you can pick it at any time except for during the most intense part of the heat of the day. Wanda and I will pick our fields and everything, but then we will go back out around. If we got to do the greenhouse, we won't do the greenhouse until we get all the fields done, and it might be 8:30 or 9 o'clock that we go into the greenhouse to actually begin to pick the stuff in the greenhouse. But the fans are already going, the stuff's already, it's not usually still cool in them. It's not bad because the sun's being filtered, it's not coming in hard. And guys, that's how we get as much done as we get done. Wanda and I actively try to, any canning that has to be done is done during the middle of the day. We don't do it in the mornings. We don't do it at night. We do it in the middle of the day when it's so hot. We come in the house, we usually have to turn the AC on here in the house, and we can. Now, it does make us have to run our AC just a little more, but that's the time of the day when it's too hot for us to be outside and do anything anyway, so we go ahead and just do the canning in the middle of the day, unless, like I was talking about, unless it's like English peas or sweet corn or something like that, then it has to be done immediately. But if we can in the middle of the day, then once the canner gets going, we can actually, Wanda and I can sit down. We don't have to do anything else until the canner actually goes off, and we take it off and we give it its cool down period. Now for water bathing, we can just keep rolling. But if you have our pressure canner, we gotta wait for it to cool down, and then we get our food ready again. We put another canner load. We can do up to 3 and 4 a day sometimes of canners of actual food in the pressure canner if you just watch your time and watch what you're doing. Have everything ready. Like if one canner's going, rather than just sit down, if we got to know we're going to have another 2 or 3 canners coming in behind it, we go ahead and process all the vegetables and keep them in water or lime juice or whatever we have to keep them in to keep them clean and fresh and everything. And then whenever we get ready to can, all we got to do when the jars come out is get the canner ready and just fill the jars up, put the next load in. You know, it's just that simple. And then that frees us up to be able to go back out that afternoon once the weather cools off and work in the gardens again. Sometimes we do a lot of weeding and stuff like that late in the afternoons, and then we take that grass and we'll go feed it to the chickens or to the cows. We throw it over, you know, the fence, or if we have our pigs, we throw it over the fence to our pigs and stuff like that. We, you know, that's how we work here at Deep South Homestead. I usually, when we watch YouTube videos of different places, I can usually watch what they're doing, and I can tell you right off the bat whether they're going to be a successful gardener on a large garden or not. And when I hear people talk, when I'm in groups with people or something, and people I hear talking about, yeah, we get up at such and such a time, you know, we try to get out the door by 8:30, 9 o'clock, you know, I'm like, well, you won't ever make it as far as being a big gardener. Now, raised beds and maybe, like I said, a 60 by 80 garden or something like that, that's perfectly fine, because like I said, an hour, hour and a half, you can take care of that garden and be out of it, you know. And you can actually do it in less time if you use a row cover, ground cover on the ground. You can actually do it in less time than that. To do 7 gardens like we do, you have to, and to be able to raise all your own food and to be sustainable at it, you have to do it the way we do it. There's no, you just, when you're our age, you can't stay out there all day. Now, when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, 30s, and even my 40s, I could stay out there all day. It didn't bother me. The heat didn't bother me. The sun didn't bother me. I could stay out there and I could hoe in a field all day long. I used to pick cucumbers for a living. Had my own fields. I started at daylight and pick till late that evening. I pick all day and then take them to the factory. And when you have youth and health, you can do those things. But once you get some age on you, you have to start learning how to monitor your life, and you have to start learning how to monitor your gardening so that you can continue to do it. If not, you'll have a burnout, and you can have a heat stroke. There's lots of things that you can have happen to you if you don't maintain your health, you know. And Wanda and I, we have health issues. We're no different than anybody else. Now, we don't take any medications at this point, but I mean, the doctors try to tell us that we need to, but we actually refuse to at this point, simply because we believe that if we take care of ourselves a little bit better and use natural things, that we will be okay. And up to this point, we've survived. You know, I mean, it's not like we have the best health in the world, because we don't. We both suffer some pretty serious health issues sometimes. That's why we're trying to focus on, you know, greenhouse growing, because it will allow us to be closer to the house, not be out in the big fields in the heat and stuff. It allows us to be able to grow intensively and be able to do a good job at it. And I think that a lot of people, if you're watching our videos, I believe that there's a lot that can be learned there. Now, we make mistakes. You know, our biggest mistake this year was using cow manure from our place here. We had no clue whatsoever that our cow manure was tainted with grazon. Did not know that. We thought that where we were getting our hay at was a good source of place to get hay. There was no chemicals being used on it. And come to find out, you know, literally everybody puts chemicals on their hay here. We didn't know that. We thought that, you know, people just cut their hay. I mean, I see them cut the hay field and then it's pretty and green. They cut it again and, you know, they're baling it. And I'm like, wow, you know, they're doing a good job. And I didn't know that all these farmers around here was running through there spraying grazon on everything. And 2,4-D weed killer, all this kind of stuff. And you know, I bought hay and used it, and I mean, my cow manure, because we got really, Wanda and I got really intensive with the composting, and you know, destroyed one whole side of our greenhouse almost in here with the compost from that that we had been keeping. The compost pile was only like 6 months old, and it wasn't like a year or two old. It was like 6 months. It had composted down, and I thought that it was perfectly safe. So I took the tractor bucket, and y'all saw me in the videos making the greenhouse. I took a big bucket full, scooped it up, brought it down here, shoveled it all in the raised bed. And, well, you know, it come back to bite us in the butt. So now we've had to look long and hard to be able to find hay that didn't have grazon sprayed on it. We finally found some. And now I've got the big daunting task of cleaning all my barn stalls out down to the dirt. And then I got to wait for the cows to use the bathroom back in them, and maybe next winter, I don't know, when I'll even get to cleaning these out. Because it's just too much to do around here right now. I'm so used to just running in there, grabbing a few 5-gallon bucketfuls at a time, going dumping in the compost. And I kind of don't ever stay ahead of the cows, but I stay where their stalls are pretty clean. Because they drop hay here and drop hay there, and you know, different things, dragging it on their feet in and out. So I'm looking at a long process now. And plus I've got a compost pile up here that's as big as a dump truck that I don't know when I'll be able to use it. You know, it'll probably be years before I can use it. And then I'll be skeptical. But guys, we even face another issue here. Our cows has been on this other hay for so long, and they've been using the bathroom in our pastures. So I told Wanda, I said, if we decided we wanted to convert one of our pastures into a place to garden and grow some different, to rotate crops and move the cows over to another place, then we can't use that pasture because they've been eating grazon hay this past year, and they've used the bathroom, and it's going to take anywhere between, you know, 18 months to 2 years, or probably longer, for that stuff to get out of the soil. We wouldn't even be able to raise broadleaf vegetables in there. Now we could plant corn or something like that, but, or millet or something, but you know, these are things that we don't think about when it comes to growing our own food lots of times. We talk about organic, you know, organic. Grass-fed beef. You know, I'm just paid a fortune for my grass-fed beef. You might want to check what kind of grass those cows were fed on. Whether or not grazon was sprayed on those fields before the cows went in to graze, because Wanda and I is guilty of that. We've bought the meat, come to find out, yes, talking to the companies, grazon was used on the pastures where the cows were fed the grass-fed beef. So the grass-fed beef we paid a fortune for was tainted with grazon. There's more to this than meets the eye of being able to be a sustainable person growing all your own food. Now that Wanda and I know a little bit more, we've fought the power companies about spraying the power lines. We've usually won out in that. They don't spray them right now. So we don't have that chemical coming down in here. Now we do have neighbors that will spray their places, but I can't control what they do on their property. They spray Roundup for Kogon grass, trying to kill it out. And hopefully that's not messing with anything down where we're at, because there's a lot of woods in between us and the other neighbors, so maybe any drift don't come down in here. And they usually just spot spray. They don't like spray whole fields. So we're hoping that that's not bothering anything down here. guys, it's going to be a battle from here on out, because everybody is so used to using chemicals, and they don't think about the implication it has on human health, or their gardens or anything like that. Lots of companies are selling their cow manure out of their barns or horse manure, not thinking anything about people composting, or they're even selling it for compost, but they don't think about the amyloprylids and all that's in all this compost, aminoprylids that's in all this compost that is going to destroy people's gardens. They don't care. They're just interested in the dollar. And that's the sad part of our society today, is to see people like us or like you work, you bust your tail, you try to grow the cleanest garden you can, the most organic garden you can, you try to use the most natural things like animal manures, let them break down, compost them and all this stuff, and then you put them in your gardens and wham, all your stuff dies. It's disheartening. And I've seen a lot of people say, I gave up, I tried gardening for 2 or 3 years. I've tried the root stout method, I've tried back to Eden, I've tried, all these different things. My garden's just, all the plants just wither up and die. And now that they found out that there's problems with things like the aminoprylids and stuff, then they're like, oh, well, I didn't know. And now my ground's contaminated. I'm like, yeah, you have to get... And the problem is a lot of people have limited spaces to grow their stuff, so they can't just move into another place and let that rest, or they can't plant something in there that pulls it out of the soil and get rid of it to help amend and clean their soil up. They don't have room. And that's what's disheartening, is people who really sink their teeth and their life into growing good, healthy vegetables for their family, and then they get stuck with tainted soil because of people who just don't give a flip. They're only after the dollar, And that's what I ran into here, as y'all saw my earlier videos talking about the problems with the hay and the grazon and stuff like that. Guys, we've got to stay on top of this if we're going to be able to grow enough to feed our families in the upcoming years during this grand solar minimum cycle that we're in, and this 2024 planetary system alignment thing that supposedly hadn't happened in the last, I think it was like last 2,000 to 3,000 years since it's happened. And when it does happen, there's like a 3-year period there where you can't grow anything for like 3 years. So so I keep telling people, stock up, stock up, stock up. Because as closer we get to 2024, if that's true, now I'm not saying it's true, but if it is, and we have that 3-year wet cycle or that 3-year dry cycle that usually follows it every 2,000 years, then guys, we need to be prepared. We need to be ready for that when it happens. So hang in there and watch your health, set your schedules, learn when to pick your vegetables, learn when not to pick your vegetables for the best consistency of taste, when to harvest to know when your vegetables will be at their best. Guys, those are the things, or the little secrets that you have to pay attention to when you're being a full-scale gardener on a large scale. Now, like I said, if you're doing raised beds, they're quick, you're in and out of them, there's no big deal. You can do them anytime. I wouldn't pick my vegetables in the heat of the day because it takes away from the quality of them. But for the answers to those who've asked me and Wanda, how do y'all do as much as you do? We start before daylight and we end after dark. We come inside in the middle of the day. We can in the middle of the day. We rest when we can in the middle of the day, especially during the heat. Guys, we just watch what we're doing. We don't wait and try to... Sleep is not a big issue to us. We sleep in the winter time. The winter months, we can sleep longer in the mornings because it doesn't come daylight till way on up in 6 or 7 o'clock. It doesn't come daylight till then. We are actively out the door in the summertime as soon as we can see our hands, and we're going after it, and we're doing what we can do until it starts getting warm and the humidity gets us. And then we do what we can do. We come inside. So guys, that is the secrets to the way Wanda and I operate and how we get so much done at 60 years old. And I wish you the best. wish us the best through this hurricane that's coming through right now, or tropical storm that's coming through right now. I'm sitting here watching trees whipping and, you know, rain coming down and corn blowing down. I'm not happy my corn's leaning over, but it is what it is. You know, I mean, when it's all past, we'll see how we fare. So guys, thank you for watching, and thank you for just being a part of Deep South Homestead, and thank you for being so kind with your comments. And if there is any questions that we can answer, as always I tell you, leave a comment down below. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to us so you can hit that notification button so you can tell when we put a new video up. A lot of you ask us, do we have specific videos? Guys, we have a playlist that has probably 4,000 videos in it. You go in there, there's a video about everything usually in those playlists. You just have to look for it. It's there usually. One that I've made sometimes 2 and 3 videos on a particular subject. It just depends on how many times we get asked, you know. So guys, we love you and we appreciate you. Thank you from Deep South Homestead.